Morning folks, I've just been down at the van. Windscreen washers had stopped working. I've been down there trying to, well, it seems to be working now. I think it was just a bad connection or some muck in it or something. Yeah, we're still here. We're nurse this afternoon with Pat. Yeah, right, back to 1968, and I went to get Pat. I think it were around about April or May, and couldn't afford a flight, so I had to go by boat and train. Hell of a journey. It was a bit tortuous getting away, as you might expect, and then the journey was pretty horrific by boat and train. Pat wondered where on earth I was taking her. And my dad had bulled this flat up a bit, had my dad, to Pat. He'd made it sound wonderful. I mean, it compared favourably with other private hirings. But obviously what my dad told Pat were a bit more than it was, a bit exaggerated. Because when Pat saw it, she burst into tears. So we're trying to remember what this flat consisted of. It was, as I said, it was the top half of a house in Hermansburg, which Hermansburg was about 10 miles outside the camp. And it had a front room with a sort of a settee in it, like a chaise longue thing, and a bed. And we think it had a dining table in there as well. Then it had another room, and in that room was like a table, and it had like a drawer which you pulled out, and in these drawers were two bowls for washing, doing your washing up in, and there were a cooker in there. There were another sort of settee thing in there. A cupboard that we kept food in. And then the bathroom just consisted of a toilet and a sink with a cold water tap. So we actually had no hot running water. To get a wash, you had to put the kettle on, and to wash up after a meal, you had to put the kettle on. And when you wanted a bath, you had to go downstairs into Frau Schalk's bathroom. And it was weird. There was an enormous boiler on the end of this bath. You had to tell her when you were going to get a bath, because she had to fire it up or something. This boiler, I don't know how long before you needed your bath. But it was very primitive. But no more primitive than other blokes, I don't think. When we saw what other couples were living in roundabout, it wasn't too bad. But it was quite a shock for Pat. But Pat being Pat, she prettied it up, made it homely. And the blokes loved her. Pat was an amazing cook, still is. And the blokes used to love coming round for a meal. In fact, we were out one Saturday night, and the following morning, Sunday morning, we were in bed, and Pat said, "Do you know you invited some blokes round for Sunday lunch today?" And I said, "Did I?" She says, "You did." I said, "Ah, they won't come." And the words had no sooner left my mouth than the doorbell rang and they turned up. But Pat, she got a Sunday lunch going for her. Well, she's always been like that. She's a magician. And eventually Pat made friends with other squaddies' wives who lived in Hermansburg. And there was a bus that the army provided to take them into the camp and to the roundhouse where there was a supermarket. And there was an open-air swimming pool in Hermansburg, and I think Pat, when the weather was nice, she used to go there during the day. In fact, there's a funny story around that, because we went there one weekend with some friends. A couple of squaddies had married German girls, and we went with them to the swimming pool, and you could take a picnic and have a picnic on the grass round the swimming pool. It was really nice. And Pat had made sandwiches and put them in this polythene bag. And these German girls, when we took them out of rucksack, started giggling. And we said, "What's wrong?" And these German, their husbands, the squaddies, said to us, "Them bags you've got your sandwiches in are ST for STs." Which were quite amusing. It seemed to amuse the German girls anyway. Swimming pool, Sunday lunch, swimming, yeah, all of those things, and generally we had a good life, and I think Pat was happy out there. We went out to Baby Bar dancing and various places. Pictures. We went to cinema together. Yeah, that was a disaster. We went together to Denmark. We caught the train to Denmark, and we didn't realise how much higher the cost of living was in Denmark to Germany, because we ran out of money. We finished up living on bread and jam. We were cutting this bread with a nail file and spreading this jam on it. And eventually Pat got sunstroke. It was really bad. We had to, the border to Germany was in Flensburg. So we had to get back to Flensburg because we were covered under the BAOR. For the health service covered us in Flensburg, but it didn't cover us in Denmark. So we had to get back to Flensburg, and Pat, were you losing your sight, Pat?
Yeah, I couldn't hear and I'd lost my sight.
She was losing her sight and she couldn't hear. It was really bad. And anyway, we went to the hospital in Flensburg, and they told her she'd got sunstroke, and they kept her in. And had no money and nowhere to stay. All we had was a return ticket. So they let me stay with her. Pat were on like a trolley bed, and I sat on a chair, and we went to sleep. And they let us leave the following day, didn't they? I think we're just in overnight.
They actually provided us with ambulance, because I think we got ambulance to...
Right. And didn't they give us some food?
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave us some food in the hospital. And I think they took us back in an ambulance to the station. They were really good. They were brilliant. Yeah, we went to a place called Kolding in Denmark. It were a little coastal resort. And we had a bad experience there, because we went to this nightclub, and this girl tried to knife somebody while we were in there, and there were these long benches with bench seats, And we were kind of jammed in, and I says, I think we better get out of here. And I said to this lad next to me, could you let us out? And he just said, get on the table. We had to climb on the table to get out of this place. It was quite frightening. Oh dear. Yeah. That's just another wonderful experience, you know, to add to all the rest. See how we go with that. This is a photograph of me and Pat in the naffy. Okay.